Hi, boys and girls. It is Friday already once again. Just a week ago, we were having you guys do some fun Olympic Games. We certainly had fun, Mrs. Berry and I, and we hope that you did too. It's a celebration of our past and our modern day and our future that we are still doing the Olympic Games that the Greeks invented thousands of years ago. So, thanks again for that. We really had fun. Thanks for your participation. Today, as promised, last Friday, we are looking at Judaism in terms of the Holocaust. And so last year you should have had a lesson with Mr. Osborne and Mr. Troutner, and you didn't get that with the Holocaust. So we're going to revisit that a little teeny tiny bit as I discussed on last Friday and as Mrs. Barry introduced to you last Friday as well. But before that, let's just review what is Judaism in a nutshell. Remember, we are doing the beliefs of this religion and we are covering them quickly just so you have a mind's eye idea, if you're not Jewish, what it means to be a Jew, what it means, what Judaism means. So I'm just going to go back to your chart. Maybe you'll need this out. Maybe you can just have this out and kind of going over this and reminding yourself that Judaism is a monotheistic religion, and there are about 15 or so million followers, 13 to 15 million, depending on what you read. So a little variation there. The majority of Jews live in Israel, but there are Jews throughout the world, and there are many in the United States. That's the second highest percentage is the United States. And the religion is about 3,500 years old. You might have 3,000 down there. I just modified that a little bit. Either way, it's an old religion. It is the oldest monotheistic religion, as a matter of fact. So that is part of Judaism. We know that they call their God Yahweh, but it's the same God that Christians and Muslims believe in. And that's from Christianity and Islam. And it's the same God, but with a different name. There's Yahweh right there. Abraham and Moses are the two most important people that are usually identified for Judaism. Abraham is the person who got the message from God that there is one God and that he should be passing that on and to take the people to Canaan, which is the promised land. And from there, they end up having to go to Egypt because of the famine. In Egypt, that's where Moses shows up. He is a slave child, but he gets basically adopted by a princess, and she raises him. And through a series of events, Moses leads the enslaved Jews out of Egypt back to the Sinai Peninsula. And so Moses is a very important figure as well in Judaism. And he also gets the 10 Commandments. So that is a super important part of Judaism. And it is founded about 1950 BCE, before Common Era. And the Torah is their most important book. So that is where Jews get their most of their information on how to live a reverent life and how to live a moral life and what they're supposed to do, what the actions are supposed to be. And Jews go to a synagogue to practice their religion. A rabbi is a person who is well educated in Jewish law, information, in the Torah, and it's not the same as being a priest if you're familiar with Christianity, but it certainly is a higher level within the church of knowledge. Orthodox and Reform are the two branches that we are covering and just acknowledging in this lesson. Their basic beliefs. Again, crazy to summarize religion in one column of a graph, but we are doing that this year just to be a little more knowledgeable. Jews believe that there is one God, monotheism. They believe that they have an agreement, a personal, one-on-one covenant agreement, promise with God to live their best life, and that moral life, to live a moral life, their best life, through the Torah and the 10 Commandments. So we see 10 Commandments down here, and the Torah is where they get a lot of that moral information and life. The Star of David is their most well-known star, or most well-known symbol. You might see the menorah too. That's the candelabra that we see also. But the Star of David is most associated with Judaism. So if you don't have this down, write it down. It helps to be able to compare, because next we move on to Christianity, and then Islam, and then we'll go into the polytheistics. And it's just nice to have this chart so you can flip back and forth in your packet and see what are similar and different. Going back to our question for today, I asked you to please look at a map of Israel, and what do you notice? Israel is where the Jews, many, like we said, the highest percentage of Jews now live. That is the area that was originally, they believe, the promised land from God, and it was Canaan. Originally has other names as well, but it is now called Israel. And if we look at this map, we can see that it's strange borders, right? There's some weird things to Israel, including this little strip right here, the Gaza Strip, and we see some things that maybe not normal for a typical country. We also know, I mean, when I say Gaza, I wonder if that's spiking that talk right now in the news. I'm recording this in advance, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on right now, but is conflict right now between Gaza and Israel. I'm not sure where that's taken, what path that's taken from there. But this is the land, and this is the Mediterranean Sea right here. And we can see there are many countries that surround Israel. It's a small country, and many of these countries are countries that practice Islam. So that is just an interesting tidbit in our comparisons of the different religions as we move on to Islam moving forward. And let's see what else. Let's go back to our agenda for today. Okay, so going back to what we're actually going to learn today. So we've reviewed Judaism, we've talked about some of those key points, and now we're going to talk about just that little introduction. We said last Friday that I polled your classes and I said, how many of you know about the Holocaust? I was so happy to hear that most of you had some knowledge of the Holocaust. And in this brief lesson, we are just going to watch a video that you would have seen last year that depicts some positivity out of the Holocaust. So, in before World War II, there's a man named Hitler, and he is in charge of Germany, and he wants to eradicate people who are not of the Aryan race. He wants to get rid of people who don't fit his criteria. And one large group of those people are the Jews, and he targets the Jews. And that is called a genocide. When you go after one group of people and try to eliminate them because of a belief or because of their ethnicity. And so the Jews were targeted by Hitler in Germany, and it started the movie for today about the soccer team is the beginning of that assault on the Jews, and it's just beginning to ramp up. But Hitler started small. He started with putting Jews in what he called ghettos, what were called ghettos, which were certain pockets of cities that maybe didn't have all the amenities or weren't very nice, made them live in certain areas. They targeted Jewish businesses that would maybe cause violence on them or destroy them or do something negative with the Jewish businesses. So it kind of starts small and then it ramps up through World War II, and eventually 6 million Jews are killed through gas chambers and executions and concentration camps where they were forced to do labor and starve to death. And we're not getting into all of that detail, but I do want to show you this video they would have seen. It's about a soccer team called FC Start, and they are put in a position where they're supposed to kind of bow down to Hitler and to Germany, and they're supposed to do certain things, and they go against that and they say, no, we're not doing that. We're going to stick to our beliefs. We're going to stick to what we hold to be true. And they do that, and they give a glimmer of hope to the people. And that's what I want you to discuss after the video. As a team, teachers, if you could help them, lead them through, how does FC Start give people hope? Do they know of other examples in the Holocaust of people who had hope? Because although a lot of negative and atrocities certainly happened, there were also some positive stories of human kindness and generosity that came out of that as well. Maybe there's a few more examples they could share. And thinking about the Olympics, when we watched that video on Friday, we saw how Jesse Owens, he went against what Hitler would have wanted or what he believed, right? And so there's a small little glimmer of a rebuke of, hey, we're not into eliminating a group of people. So just maybe a discussion after this video would be great. After the video, which is really nice, and I think you'll enjoy it, and you have a nice discussion about it, I would like you to please click on this link right here, and this is the answer key to your study guide that you did yesterday. And so you need to make sure you correct your reading guide so that you have this information moving forward for the end of the year. So please make sure to correct it. All you have to do is cross it out or erase it if you didn't get it correct. It's not a big deal. just do the fixes on there. This is an interesting chart you can look through, and it gives them the same information that we put on our chart already, but in different verbiage. So you can go through that and look at that. And then finally, for today, we are doing a reflection, just thinking about if Abraham was here today, the person who came, who got the message from God, is what Jews believe. What kind of question would you might want to ask him? What would you be interested in knowing from Abraham? So jot those down. If you don't know of something, you could use your notes, of course, or Google, but I have a feeling that your creative senses will be able to think of a good question. Okay, so again, thank you for your attention on Tuesday when we had a very long lesson. Thank you for listening to the review today, and thank you for your thoughtfulness of the Holocaust and thinking about the atrocities put upon the Jewish people during that time. Have a nice lesson. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back next week.